Good morning to all the participants in this web lecture series being organized by the Department of English, Sourav Mahavidyalaya. On behalf of the department, myself, Rick Shorkar, welcoming all the participants. Obviously, keeping in mind the pandemic situations, online study has become a popular means by which we impart knowledge nowadays. And this web lecture series is an attempt to cater to the needs of those students. And I take the occasion to first of all express my gratitude to Mr. Babulal Mahato, SDO Jhargram, administrator, as well as a member of the governing body. The department is also thankful to the Honorable Principal, Dept Shah, Sourav Mahavidyalaya. Thanks is also due to Dr. Sourav Pal, Assistant Professor, Gourav Guin Memorial College, Chandrakona Road, Paschim Mednipur, and also to Dr. Sumit Kumar Maiti, for being present as a convener of this particular lecture. And also the other teachers of the Department of English, Sourav Mahavidyalaya, Lokhikanto Chatterjee, Tanmay Sarkar, and Shubhankar Acharya. And finally, to the participants who have made it an attempt to be part in this web lecture series. And without further wasting any time, I would request Dr. Sumit Kumar Maiti to kindly start the day's proceedings by introducing our speaker to the audience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rick Babu. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the online lecture number 2 of the online lecture series organized by the Department of English, Seva Bharati Mahavidyalaya, Kapgadi, Jhargram, West Bengal. I am Dr. Sumit Kumar Maiti, Assistant Professor and Head of the Department of English, Seva Bharati Mahavidyalaya. On behalf of the English Department, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Babulal Mahato, the Honorable Administrator of the governing body, for his kind cooperation, constant motivation, and moral support. I also extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Devaprasad Sahu, the principal of the college and also the patron of this online lecture series, for giving his consent to organize this event. My deepest gratitude and hearty thanks to the distinguished speaker of today's lecture, Dr. Sourav Pal, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Guin Memorial College, Chandrakona Road, Paschim Mednipur, for accepting our invitation to deliver the second lecture of the online lecture series. I convey my thanks to the participants, departmental teachers, non-teaching staff, and each and every member of the academic community of the college. Special thanks to the members of the Alumni Association of the department for their love, respect, motivation, support, encouragement, and constructive criticism. Dear participants, we all know that the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic has severely affected every section of human life, particularly education. But we also believe that education is an ongoing process. It cannot stop even during the pandemic. So by keeping in mind this pandemic situation, we have organized this online lecture series. Our first lecture was organized in the month of November last year, and that was a huge success, and that has inspired us, that has motivated us to continue with this venture. Now, the topic of today's lecture is a very interesting topic: waiting for Godot, searching for meaning in darkness. and the speaker is a distinguished scholar and academician and a speaker, good speaker, Dr. Sourav Pal. Now, let me introduce today's speaker to all of you. Dr. Sourav Pal is an assistant professor and head of the Department of English, Gourav Guin Memorial College, Chandrakona Road, Paschim Medinipur, West Bengal. He completed his master's as a gold medalist from Vidyasagar University in 2003. He did his MPhil on R.K. Narayan from the University of Kolkata. His specialization is in Indian English writings and the genre of fiction, though his area of interest also extends to British Romantic poetry, popular literature, and mythology. He has contributed papers to various esteemed journals on the British and Indian writers, including John Keats, Robert Browning, George Orwell, Amitabh Ghosh, Arundhati Roy, Arvind Adiga, etc., on different occasions. He has completed his PhD from the Department of English, Vidyasagar University, in 2019. Now, uh, with this very brief introduction, I request Dr. Sourav Pal to kindly begin his lecture.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Shamit, and good morning to everybody. Am I audible? Am I properly audible?
yes, you are absolutely
Okay.
audible and continue.
Let me start then. Uh, Today I am going to talk about Waiting for Godot, and I have entitled the uh, talk as Waiting for Godot, Searching for Meaning in Darkness. Now, Waiting for Godot is a highly philosophical and totally unconventional play, and as this talk is directed mainly for the students, because my target audience is mainly the students, I will keep things as simple as possible. But nevertheless, I will try to touch upon things which are extremely necessary to understand this play, which is termed as an absurd drama. Now, the literature of the absurd and the movement associated with it actually started after the horrors of the Second World War. And like many movements, its beginning point, its source was France. And we know that Samuel Beckett himself wrote this play in French, uh, originally in French in 1952, and it was first staged in 1953. So just after the Second World War was over, in the decades of the 50s. And later, Beckett himself translated it in English. The original title of the play was In Attendant Godot, and in English translation, Beckett just changed a few words of the title and made it Waiting for Godot. In Attendant Godot actually means while waiting for Godot, but Beckett in the English translation made it Waiting for Godot, making things more generalized. Now, we have to understand that the philosophy, the movement of the literature of the absurd is based on a philosophical concept which is called existentialism. And if we don't understand the existential philosophy of Sartre and Camus, we will not be able to understand the philosophy behind writing this kind of play. So, what does existentialism tell us about our life, about existence. Existentialism actually raises a few questions to human beings. Who are you? Where have you come from? Where will you go when you will die? And what are you doing in this earth in the meantime? Now, if you are asked these questions, then you will try to answer in a certain familiar way, such as you are given birth by certain parents, you are the part of a particular family, you live in a particular place, you are by birth given a nationality, you are put in a particular religion. So if I try to answer these questions, I will say that my name is Sourav Pal. I live in Medinipur. I am Hindu by birth, and I am an Indian also by birth. So these are the conventional ways in which we answer the questions. We actually try to establish our identity. But actually this is nothing but constructed identity. Why? Because none of these things actually define who I really am. And when these things are stripped from the identity of a person, these things which are man-made, because my family has given me a surname by which I am known. I am born in a society which is called the Bengali middle class society. That is also a man-made constructed thing. I did not choose Hinduism. It was given to me. This religious identity was given to me by birth. I did not choose to be an Indian. And India, the concept of the country, the concept of nationality is not something very intrinsic to human society or human kind, because countries are made. If you go back some 20,000 years ago, even some 2,000 years ago, many countries were not on the map of the world. So these concepts are man-made, these things are man-made, and our identity therefore is constructed identity. So when an existential philosopher asks us, who are you? He's telling us to answer the question on the perspective of really who I am. I mean, it is not something that is given to me. The identities which are given to me are not relevant. If we take away these things, then we cannot answer this question. Now, existentialism also tells us about our being in an alien universe, which we do not particularly know or cannot analyze by using our rational abilities, because this notion actually came after the horrors of the Second World War. Before that, even before the uh, First World War, the world was a different place. People believed in certain ideals and ideologies. Their life was grounded on certain metaphysical and religious and also nationalist beliefs. They believed that human beings are fairly rational creatures and they live in a world which is at least partly intelligible, and they are part of an ordered social structure. But the Second World War, especially, both the World Wars, but especially the Second World War, actually brought these ideas in which human beings believed so long to questions and doubts. Because if we are really rational creatures, then why such a mass destruction and genocide in the two world wars? Why we try to kill each other in the name of progress and development, in the name of certain ideologies? So the human belief in the metaphysical, religious, and philosophical ideas which they so long relied upon, now were second. And then the question of human beings stripped of their constructed identities came to our literary purview, and the literature of the absurd actually tells us that human life is basically absurd, and so the literature that is going to reflect that life must be absurd too. So absurd here does not mean meaninglessness, total meaninglessness, but it is a search for meaning in apparent absurdity, in apparent meaninglessness. So the absurd drama or any literature of the absurd actually tries to find, reflect the life that is absurd by taking recourse to the existential philosophy. And now if we try to analyze our life, how do we live our life? We live our life in a set pattern, in a conventional mode. We study in our childhood, and the goal is to get a job, to earn a living. Then when we start doing a job, when we start earning our living, we get married, and then we give birth to the future generation, and then we grow old doing the same thing, and every day actually repeats itself with slight variations, and then we die. So this is the set pattern of our life. Like I can remember that there is a short story, The Lotus Eater, where human life is compared to a tram car going back and forth in the same rail, railway. Now, why are we doing this? Because people before us have done this, and people after us will also do the same things. Basically, we are not different from animals, because animals also are born, they give birth to future generations, and then they die. We human beings only do these things in a more complicated way. We have created a complex structure, social and cultural structure, to live our life. But actually, an absurd dramatist tells us that we are doing this in order to give meaning to our life, which is otherwise meaningless. If the existential philosopher asks you, what is the intrinsic worth, meaning, or value of your life, you will fail to answer without taking the help of these things: your constructed identity and the set pattern of your life. So, when human beings are given no safety net to answer these questions, when human beings are stripped naked, then he or she cannot answer the question, who are you, why are you on this earth, why or where you have come from, and where you will go after this life. Now, I remember another great war, the war of Kurukshetra in the Mahabharata. When just before the war, Arjun is completely devastated by looking at the kith and kins, the near and dear ones, on the opposite side. Krishna tells him that, Arjun, why are you lamenting for those who are already dead? You are not born only this time. You are born in many previous lives. You had many previous lives, and you will have many lives after. In Bible also, we have the concept of heaven and hell. You will have an afterlife. You will have a second chance. You will, according to your virtues or vices, will be given the chance to go to heaven or hell. In every religion, there is this concept. It's a common concept that there are cycles of birth and rebirth, and there are concepts of heaven and hell. You have to live the life on this earth in a virtuous manner so that you can have an everlasting happiness afterwards, in the afterlife. Every religion says the same thing. But an existential philosopher says that all these are man-made things. These are constructed by human beings to give meaning to your life. Do you really know whether there is an afterlife? Do you really know if you had lives prior to this one? So again, we have to take help of something else, something beyond ourselves, something beyond this life, to give meaning to this life. So when you are asked, again I am repeating this question again and again, when you are asked that why are you on this earth, you have to give the answer by taking help of something else, something beyond this life on this earth. Otherwise we cannot give answer to this question or give meaning to this life. Now this is what Beckett does in Waiting for Godot. In Waiting for Godot, we find two tramps, Vladimir and Estragon, sitting on a mound at the beginning of the play. They are tramps, vagabonds. They don't have the social and other ties that we have. And Vladimir and Estragon are actually everyone, because they are not individualized. They are generalized characters. And the setting of the play is at once dangerous and uncertain. What does Beckett say at the very beginning about the setting? A country road, a tree, evening. It can be anywhere, any place on this earth. And Vladimir and Estragon can be anybody. They are representative of the humankind. And the time is evening. Evening is neither day nor night. It is a time in between, an uncertain time. And the uncertainty of time is an intrinsic feature of Waiting for Godot. And I am coming to that later. Now, in the very beginning, we find Vladimir and Estragon. They are waiting for someone called Godot. Godot never appears throughout the play. And who is Godot? The identity of Godot is also uncertain. Even Vladimir and Estragon do not have exact timing of their appointment with Godot. They faintly remember that perhaps Godot had made a promise to them that he will meet them at a certain time in a certain place, and they think that this may be the particular place and this may be the particular time of their appointment, but they are not very sure about this. And what they are doing in the meantime till Godot arrives, they are doing nothing. And a critic, Vivian Mercier, says that nothing is something that happens twice in this play. So they're doing nothing, but there is a tremendous action in this play, all of which they are doing to pass the time, to give them the feeling that they exist. They have a faint idea that when Godot will come, the predicament of their life maybe maybe turned for good, and they will have better circumstances. So Godot is a savior for them, who will come and change the circumstances of their life. But throughout the play, Godot doesn't appear. And what Vladimir and Estragon are doing, they are just doing silly things. They are preoccupied with their hats and boots. They are trying to talk about various things, and they actually are trying to spend the time to give meaning to an existence which is otherwise meaningless without the appearance of Godot. And
Sorry, Sourav.
okay,
your voice is cracking, you know.
find that
Saurabh,
Guru
your
and
voice is cracking.
nothing is tied in a way that they are inseparable, but they don't meet ever. In the meantime,
Saurabh,
Vladimir and Islam meet Maki and Gojo. In the first act, we find that Lucky is
Saurabh, you are not audible. Saurabh, your voice is cracking.
tied to Gojo by a rope. Gojo is Lucky. On the second act, Lucky becomes down, Gojo becomes light, and they are not protected in the sense of the direction. Because Gojo, the blind Gojo now no more can drive Lucky. So, uh, in the two acts, the same things repeat with slight variations. And perhaps Dhamira and Sravan are living the same day again and again. Maybe there are similar days which they had spent before this first act, in which we find them for the first time, and perhaps they will continue living the same day in the, after the second act, because at the end of the play we find that Guru doesn't appear and they are saying that they will move, but they do not move. So, what does this tell us about our existence? Because I told you that this drama is based on existential philosophy. Vladimir and Sutton are actually prisoners of a place and time. Time is here at once cyclic, fragmented, and uncertain. Why cyclic? What is the concept of cyclic time? We actually believe in a linear time frame. We say that there is a past, there is a present, and there is a future.
Saurabh,
And so am I audible? Is there any problem?
just once leave the
Can you listen to me?
Saurabh, your voice is breaking. You know, your voice is breaking, and you are not properly audible. So I will request you to leave and rejoin. There is some technical problem.
Actually,
So
sorry, I can't listen to it properly.
okay,
Uh,
just leave and rejoin.
am I audible? Okay,
If no, your voice is not properly audible.
carry on.
You can leave and rejoin. If there is any technical problem, it will be solved automatically.
So I'm just carrying on what I'm saying. So,
Saurabh, you are not still audible.
what I'm saying that time is at cyclic and fragment. We need a linear frame of time, but here time is moving in a cyclic manner. And when we have a cyclic time frame, then we just repeat the same things again and again. The earlier world in a cyclic time frame, we find a cyclic movement of time in the natural cycle too. So here also we find that Vladimir and his dragon have little sense of time. They don't remember what they had done in the past. They have only fragmented memory of the past. And they are living the same day again and again, with the messenger coming at the end of each day, saying that Guru will not come today, but Guru perhaps will come tomorrow. And Guru doesn't come, and they cannot leave. So they are prisoners of time and a particular time and place. Actually, the case of Vladimir and Dragon is the case of a complete or eternal stasis, whereas the case of Ojo and Lucky is that of an eternal movement. They are moving continually, just as Vladimir and Dragon are living a life of eternal stasis. And you can understand that when this play was staged in a prison in Germany, while the prisoners related the predicament of Vladimir and Dragon to their life, they could relate themselves to the predicament of Vladimir and Dragon so much, because it's actually an imprisonment. And only the humankind, because I already told you that Vladimir and Dragon are representative of human beings, and so are Ojo and Lucky, and they are imprisoned. Just we are imprisoned on this earth, which we don't know, which we can't analyze by using our rational abilities, but in which we are trying to live according to some set pattern in order to give meaning to our life here. And who is Guru actually in this play? Guru may represent hope, because we all live this life having some hope in future that something will come, some good things may happen, just as Vladimir and Sourav are waiting for Guru. Is Guru death? Are we all waiting for our death? And is sometimes it is also said that Guru is God. It's a diminutive form of the word God, Guru. And there is obviously a religious subtext to this play. And perhaps Vladimir and his dragon are trying to give meaning to their lives by thinking about an uncertain appointment with God, just as we take recourse to God when we face some problem on this earth. But it is completely uncertain. Though there is the concept of the messenger at the end of the play, at the end of each act of the play, when the messenger says that Guru will certainly come tomorrow, just as the messengers of God came to this earth to tell them that someday we'll meet God. So there are many possibilities about the identity of Guru, but Beckett himself said that he doesn't mean Guru to be a representative of God or a counterpart of God in this dramatic universe of waiting for Guru. He rather says, very interestingly, that He coined this word Godo from the French word godilot, which means boot. And boot or feet actually play an important part in this play. So it's like go to my foot, uh, which Godo is an entity who will never appear. So go to my foot. But um, time goes on without much change in Vladimir and Estragon's life. They are repeating the same day again and again, and we even are not certain whether uh, we are looking at two consecutive days in the two acts, because in the second day we find that uh, there are a few leaves on the leafless tree under which Vladimir and Estragon was present beside the country road. So leaves cannot grow within a few hours. So perhaps even Beckett tries to tell us that between the two acts of the play, an uncertain amount of time has passed. So we can remember what Macbeth said at the end of the play, the last soliloquy of Macbeth, which also tells us about existential nihilism. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, brief candle, life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and freights his hour up on the stage, and then is heard no more. Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So the same thing, the same idea of tomorrow, every day is actually being preceded by, succeeded by the tomorrow. So tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace. In this way, we live our life till we reach the last syllable of recorded time, till we meet our death. So throughout the whole play, actually, we find the pair, Vladimir and Estragon, searching for purpose amidst purposelessness of life. Vladimir and Estragon, as I already said, are in constant stasis, and they want to go out of this stasis, and they feel that perhaps the arrival of Godot will give them this opportunity to go out of this go out of this prison of time and place. And so throughout the play, what we are going through is the absurdity of existence, which are being filled up by physically inept actions and nonsensical conversations. We are going through a purposelessness of life, and we find that none of the five characters, Vladimir, Estragon, Kojo, Lucky, and the messenger boy, has any meaningful purpose in their life. They are trying to give purpose, and the message from Godot delivered by the boy are equally purposeless. Godot will never come. At least at the end of the play, we understand that Godot is perhaps non-existent, and it is not at all clear that the messages are even meant for Vladimir and Estragon, because the messenger boy cannot recognize Vladimir. He calls him Albert, Mr. Albert. So throughout the play, we have the folly, we have the sense of the folly of seeking meaning. Although it is unclear who or what Godo represents, by waiting for him, Vladimir and Estradan are clearly seeking some type of meaning outside themselves. Just as we in this life are trying to give meaning to our lives by taking recourse of something beyond ourselves. Uh, so, Godot never comes, and Godot was never meant to come, representing the futility and folly of such a search for meaning in an inherently meaningless existence. So the characters, as I'm repeating again and again, are trapped by time, endlessly repeating essentially the same day over and over. So I shall try to end my discussion by asking you a question. What, according to you, your life is, or how do you view life in the light of the uh, discussion that we made, and in the light of the existential philosophy? This is my final question. Is it the human inability to comprehend something vast beyond himself that we are unable to find the real meaning of our life? Or is it truly, as the Bible says, from dust thou cometh, to dust returneth? You are produced by the dust of this earth, and one day you will go back to this dust. In waiting for Buddha also, it says, they give birth and strike the grave. The light flickers for a moment, and then there is darkness. And are we just searching for meaning in this darkness? Indeed, waiting for Godot is the greatest philosophical play that modern or postmodern literature has produced. And indeed, it gives us food for intellectual thinking. And I will request my audience, who are mostly students, to think for themselves about existence, about the absurdity and meaninglessness that is being stressed in waiting for Godot, and the search for meaning amidst the apparently meaningless universe that we are compelled to live in. So, with this, I'll end my discussion, and I'll try to answer questions if there is any. So, Shamik, now over to you.
Thank you, Sourav, for your wonderful presentation. Now, you have rightly pointed out the major issues of the drama. And what is most interesting point of your lecture is the intertextuality. You have referred to the Mahabharata, you have referred to the Bible, you have referred to Macbeth, and you have incorporated your ideas, the ideas in those days, and into the analysis of Waiting for Godot. And that has been a very wonderful and brilliant exploration of the concept of meaning that your title suggests. Now, there are some questions. There are some questions made by the teachers as well as some mainly by the teachers. I just place the questions on the screen. Please have a look at the question. This is a question made by Mr. Samir Kuila. Samir is a state-aided college teacher in Naradul College, Naradul Raj College. Now he has two questions. The first question is, you can read it on the screen. Does not the place signify emptiness, which is based on multiple meanings?
I can see. I don't listen to you proper, but I can see the question in the screen on the screen. Uh, does not the place signify emptiness, which is based on multiple meanings? Yes, there are multiple possibilities to actually describe this or analyze this play. And the possibility of multiple meanings actually doesn't mean that the emptiness is created by that, because the emptiness here is created by the very philosophy on which the play is based. There is obviously play of meanings, and obviously, as Derrida used the term that meaning is perpetually deferred, it's before us. There are different meanings, and the possibility of coming to a particular meaning is continually deferred. Obviously, you can analyze this play on this play of meaning, but I feel particularly that this play is much more than that. It asks some basic questions about human existence, and because there is a certain emptiness in human existence itself, the play can reflect this emptiness just by presenting life as it is. As it is means not in the conventional sense, because waiting for photo is a completely unconventional play. It uses minimal setting, very few characters, and also there is no such thing as organic plot construction. But this minimality is actually reflecting the emptiness that is in human life when human beings are stripped of the things by which they try to give meaning to their lives, the artificial, man-made, constructed things. And the emptiness comes out of that. That's the source of emptiness, not only the play of language or meaning here. Any other question?
Thank you, Sourav. There is another question by Shamir. This is another question.
Explain the human psychology regarding the two representatives of the post-war generation in Europe, that is Vladimir and Dragon. No, I don't think so that we can place Vladimir and Dragon in a particular time, even if it is the post-war generation. Obviously, the post-war scenario gave birth to the movement of the literature of the assert. And obviously, there are existential questions which came to human mind when the horror of the Second World War took place. But Vladimir and Stragan, the world in which Vladimir and Stragan are set, in which they are living, is actually not particular to any time, or it is not a particular time or place, but it is not in Europe. Though the characters are from different countries. Their names actually tell us about different countries of Europe. But I will try to see them as representative of human beings and the place in which the drama is set is anywhere, any place. And Vladimir and Stragan are every man because the basic questions of existence are actually pertinent to every human being. Not only Vladimir and Stragan, not Europeans, not even post-war generation of Europe. These are questions which are basically pertinent to every man, every human being, the whole mankind. We only have to search inside our mind. Any other question?
Yes, there is another question.
That's a difficult question. What should we do now? Should we accept the concept of two necessary elements, endeavor and waiting, after going through the play? Okay, you have to decide for yourself, but I will say that we have to do what Vladimir and Stragan are doing. We have to give meaning to our lives by doing something, at least trying to do something, uh, because we have to pass the time, you know. And in order to pass the time, you need another person or others. So Vladimir needs Stragan, or Stragan needs Vladimir. Pojo, Pojo needs Lucky just as Lucky also needs Pojo. Because Beckett tells us in this play that the minimal unit of human life is not one. Nobody can live alone. Because in that case, living will be so much difficult and even so much hopeless. So the minimal unit in human life is at least two. So just as Vladimir and Stragan are completely tied to each other, they cannot be separated even when they want. Just as Ojo cannot leave Lucky even when he is dumb, and Lucky cannot leave Ojo even when he is blind. Similarly, we need uh, emotions like love, sympathy, benevolence, and we need other people to live this life, to at least give meaning to this life. And this we understand as we grow. When we were young, we thought that we don't need anyone. But gradually, when we grow, when we feel the burden of life, we also feel the need of someone to share this burden, to give purpose to our lives, to give meaning to our lives. Otherwise, it will be completely meaningless, and that emptiness is inherent in life itself. So we have to fill this vacuum and try to give uh, something, try to add something to our life so that we can go on. Okay.
Okay, Sourav, this is another question by our departmental teacher, Shumankar Acharia. Let's look at the question.
Yes, Vladimir Nestlé invented to think of suicide. Suicide is a heinous crime in any religion. Is it an attempt to escape from someone or something or someone, or from waiting? Yes, it is an attempt to escape the waiting, the uncertain and eternal waiting that life is. But they cannot commit suicide because uh, this instinct for survival is in the human genetic code, in every uh, animal's genetic code. A person commits suicide only when he finds that he can go on no more. And here, Vladimir thinks of suicide because they are waiting for Gourav and uh, eternal time. And they sometimes they have this feeling that they should come out of this imprisonment, come out of this prison of time and place, this temporal and spatial prison, by committing suicide. But why don't they commit suicide? Because they have a fear if one dies and accidentally the other leaves, then the living person will be completely alone. And that's a fear to them, which is more than any other fear. They're afraid of being alone. Because only by living together, they are giving some meaning to this otherwise meaningless existence. So they think of committing suicide, but they even cannot commit suicide. But they also say that they will bring a stronger rope the next day. And if Guru doesn't come, even the next day, they will commit suicide. But we are not certain whether they will be able to do so. Even.
Sourav, thank you for your wonderful presentation. Now we have another question from our departmental teacher. I would rather request Mr. Rich Sokar to put the question himself.
Am I audible? Am I
Yes, you
audible?
are audible. Yes,
Okay,
you are
first of all,
audible.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful deliberation. The way you have touched upon the different tenets of asset philosophy, drawing on references from Bible and Macbeth. My question to you is that since in the play, Vladimir Estragon wait, and this waiting, is something is waiting for something which is somehow is waiting for the meaning. So, do you feel? What is your take on the way Beckett's use of language, in the sense, is he moving towards the Derridian deconstruction of language, where the meaning is perpetually differed across spatial and temporal dimension? That is my one question. And the second is, for the benefit of the students, because most of the students, tend to interchangeably use the term absurdity and existentialism, because they tend to confuse both these terms. Would you please like to enumerate and precisely distinguish between two these terms, if it is possible for you within the constraints of the time? Thank you, sir.
Was the question audible to you, Sourav? Do you understand the question?
Sorry, I could not listen to you very clearly, but I can see your question in the comment box.
Okay, okay.
So
Sharing my
you
screen.
have asked, could you please comment on Beckett's use of language in the way he reconstructs language if we take the term as they are used in the sense meaning is visually differed and differed across the spatial and temporal dimensions. Yes. I refer to this. I refer to this obviously. Yes. Meaning is perpetually different and it is also differed because Okay, there is another question. Yes, the same. Okay. Here is, I mean, meaning of life is different for every person. Obviously, I agree to that. And this is not only that meaning of life has become different in different ages according to different social and cultural scenery. But nobody can feel that there is particular meaning that we can ascribe to our existence. And in this sense, decades waiting for Google also presents to us multiple possibilities of meaning. Even the ability of photo, it's so uncertain. The place, the setting, the time, it's so uncertain. Then obviously there are multiple possibilities of meaning because yes, as you have said, meaning is meaning falls into the areas of spatial and temporal dimensions. And nothing else struggle, like all humanity, are trying to give meaning to this otherwise meaningless existence in their own way. Still, they cannot find a meaning because the way they are trying to meaning to their lives by having a belief in the point with Guru, that becomes the continual deferring of meaning. Meaning is being deferred for them. For us also, meaning both differs and differs because when at a certain period of our life, at a certain age, we thought about giving meaning to our life, we thought of a different meaning than what we think today. And perhaps that meaning, that endeavor to give meaning to our life will be different even after a few years, and we will think in a different way. So we are trying to give meaning, but actually this meaning is being deferred. If we think of the concept of there is a difference, but still, I think that the, our inability to give meaning to our lives actually dependent on the intrinsic meaninglessness of life. Because having a good career, having a car, having a good house to live, having fame, having name, having enormous wealth or knowledge, these are some ways we try to give certain meaning to our life. But all these are things which are so ephemeral, which are so transient. If we think of life in the broad sense of the term, so ultimately we cannot give a certain meaning to our life, just as Guru did not arrive in this play. So yes, I obviously agree to your point, but this is my analysis of the situation. Thank you for the question anyway.
Thank you, Sourav, for your brilliant presentation. Now, there has been some technical issues, so we couldn't hear to you throughout the lecture. So that is beyond our control. Technical issues are beyond our control. So After all this, I'll thank you for giving us time and for devoting some time for the students of our department. Now, I will request Mr. Rick Sarkar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Seva Bharati Mahavidyalaya, to offer the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Shomit Kumar Maiti. First of all, thank you to Dr. Sourav Pal for your wonderful deliberation. And as Dr. Shomit Maiti rightly pointed out, that technical problems are beyond our control, and we have to accept that, just as we have to accept the waiting is part of our life. As we draw close to our one-day web lecture series, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Babulal Mahato, SDO, Jhargram, and as well as the administrator and a member of the governing body of Seva Bharati Mahavidyalaya, Dr. Devi Prasad Shah, Honorable Principal. Although he could not be present physically, his inspirations will be with us forever. Once again, Dr. Sourav Pal, as I have pointed out, for his wonderful deliberation. We will be looking forward to hearing from him very soon, in future also. Dr. Shomit Kumar Maiti, for being a wonderful moderator, and as well the teachers of the department, that is Tanmay Sarkar, Shubhankar Acharya, and Lokikanta Chatterjee. And to those all participants out there who have posed their questions, and questions which were really thought-provoking. And hopefully in near future, the Department of English is committed to organize such lecture. Obviously, with that, I end today's program formally. Thank you.
Thank you, Sourav. Thank you, Rick Babu. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, all the participants, particularly the students, the teachers, and everyone. Thank you.